So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Ashley Davis. This lesson is brought to you by her. She was my first one-on-one from Patreon. So we went over all things Nomad. And this was one of the things she really wanted to learn about and kind of go over was faces. So I felt it was a good idea to just make this longer tutorial. That way she can benefit and everyone can benefit from it. So once again, shout out to Ashley. And yes, I do have patches and I will mail you a Drug-Free Dave patch. And so a huge thank you to you and all my other patrons over on Patreon. All right, let's get started. So first things first, you'll notice that my sphere is brownish in color, and that's okay. Yours might be white. That's because you are in lit PBR. That is the normal default kind of material color right here, lit PBR. So you want to tap this little sun right here, lit PBR. Let's change that to matte cap. Matte cap is just an artificial lighting, artificial shading. It just makes it easier to see and sculpt with rather than white. Personal preference, you can choose whatever you want. If you want to change your matte cap, just tap here. You can choose any one you want. I tend to use PXG clay or one of these, Naki red, Naki clay. And around this time, there's going to be a pop-up for autosave. Let's just name it Gal Face, but you can name it whatever you want. Okay, so let's use, I guess we'll stick with, I'll stick with PXG clay. You can press X to get out of that. And now you're all set up with your matte cap. Later on, if you want to color this, you'll have to change from matte cap back to lit PBR in order to color it. But that's okay. For now, we're just sculpting. So you might have a different color background, and that's okay as well. You can tap here, and then you can change your color here. You can tap it, and then you can change the color of your background. I think I'm going to keep mine black, actually. Yeah, I'm going to keep it black. And you can also, if you want to really have fun, you can do a gradient, and you can do two different colors. For now, we're just going to go to color and keep it on black. Go to your little camera setting. Make sure you're on orthographic. If you're on perspective, there might be some perspective distortion. So when you're sculpting, it's better to sculpt in orthographic. Okay, so you see these grid behind you? That is a grid. You'll see the green line and the red line. So while we're doing this, we might do some mirroring. So that means we'll make something over here, hit mirror, and it'll come over to this side. So just so you know, when it mirrors, it's going to be left and right most of the time. But if there's something different, then we'll deal with it when we get to it. I won't leave you hanging. For now, I'm going to turn the grid off because I think it's ugly. So I'm going to go down here where it says grid. Just turn that off. Then we have a nice black background. Okay, I thought that was something on my screen, but it is just a little dot. Speaking of dots, this is the snap cube, so you can snap front. You can move it around if you want to look at the top, but that's how we know which direction is facing camera. And a lot of times I'll be doing something and I want it to line up exactly straight with me, and I'll hit front. Okay, so we're in a good spot. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. So the first thing we need to do, this is going to be the head, so let's rename it head. So this is our scene menu. Let's tap here, and you'll see our sphere. That's our 3D shape. It's kind of big, so you know what? Let's just leave it. Let's get crazy and just leave it there. Tap these three dots, name, and let's just name that head top. Okay, head top. Let's add a cylinder. This is something that I'm recently doing. I'm always trying new things to get my faces to look better or more efficient. So you notice I turned it, so we're looking at the left side now, and you'll see these green nodes, so you can just pull the top one down, maybe around there or so. So we have something like this. So there's a hidden gizmo here. So you can tap that. So this is your gizmo, this is your controller, and this is essentially how you control your 3D objects. Anytime you tap on one, that one becomes selected. So let's say we wanted to make this sphere bigger. We use the larger orange ring around the gizmo to make it bigger. 2-finger tap to undo. And let's say we wanted to stretch it. I'm going to look at the front. If we wanted to stretch it, we can use these nodes to stretch like so. And let's say we wanted to rotate it. If we tap on the cylinder, well, let's use this blue ring. See this blue ring, green ring? We'll go like this. And also, yours is probably not on align. So I'm going to turn mine off. Nothing would have changed. But what align is, so let's say we turn it like this. Notice how the gizmo turns as well. Right now it's pointing up, and then if we go forward, it's pointing this way. So like if I turned it and I wanted to just move it straight up, instead of like doing all this kind of thing, which is annoying, you can just hit align and it'll always go straight up, and that will always be left and right. And this one will always be back and forth kind of thing. So if I wanted to just move it straight up, I could just do that. And then if I wanted to move it along this, pointing the way that it should be pointing, I can just hit align again, and then I can move it that way. Those are the mysteries of the gizmo. You will learn those quickly because you will be using the gizmo a lot in 3D. Okay, so back to the cylinder. So this is going to be the bottom jaw. And this is going to be essentially when I'm sketching. Let's see if I have another sketch. I don't, of course. But we have the skull, the top of the head. We're going to have this little piece here, something like this. So this is essentially going to be that cylinder. And the ears are going to be cylinders. And this big head is the sphere. Okay, so let's look at the left side. And remember, let's use this red ring to kind of rotate it, and we can kind of move it up. And we'll move it right around there. You see, it kind of looks okay, but the jaw would be way too long here. So I think I'm just going to shrink it with the orange ring. Just shrink it a little bit. Let's take a look at the front view. I think we can kind of squeeze it in a bit there. Okay, that looks a bit better. We'll look at the left view again. Looks decent. I'll bring this in a little bit more so we have something like that. And then maybe I'll just make it a little thicker. Like so. Okay, so we have skull, and then we have like the bottom part of the jaw. Looking good. Okay, let's look at the front view. And let's make this a little bit softer. So this is a little bit advanced, but I think you can handle it because I'll walk you through it. So we'll tap these 3 dots. If you notice, we have this validate here. So in each shape, well, not the default sphere, but anytime you add a shape, like if I add a torus or anything like that, you'll have this validate button. So right now in the cylinder, I haven't validated, so we can just do some extra steps. So you don't have to worry too much about it. I'll walk you through this one, but there's a few things you can do before it's an official part of your scene. And then you can like use all the tools. So you notice you can't use all the tools yet. That's because we haven't validated. I know it's a weird concept if you haven't dealt with it before. But just remember that it allows you to do extra things before the part, or before the mesh, before the shape is officially part of your scene. Okay, so tap these 3 dots. Let's put the post subdivision up to 2. So you can just slide. And let's put the division X down to maybe around 24. So it kind of just like softens it up a little bit. That's beautiful. Okay, so we like that. We want to make it an official part of the scene. Let's go ahead and hit validate. So now it's validated. If we look here, we have our head and we have our cylinder. Let's rename this jaw. All right. And for anyone, if I'm going a little bit too fast, don't forget on YouTube, you can go to the little cog thingy and you can actually slow it down to like half speed. I've had to do that before with other tutorials. But I will try to talk a little bit slower. I'm in a good mood tonight. Okay, so the next thing we want to do when you think about the face, let's go to Procreate, you think about the face, this comes down and then this comes to like a nice round point there. So let's just mimic that. Okay, so we're looking at this. Let's take move. And over here is your kind of your little controller for the move tool for any of the tools. It's always over here. Let's bring this up to like 300 to start out with. I have my intensity at 50. It's just always there. I think it might be default. So we'll keep it there. And we want to keep symmetry on. You should see 2 dots. That means that we're going to be working symmetrically. So anything we do on this side will also happen on this side. We're not going to do that. Okay, so let's see if we were to bring down the front part of the face. Let's take a look at the side. That gets kind of crazy. But that's okay, we can fix it. But I'm going to undo. And let's try making the move tool a little bit bigger. By making the move tool bigger, it just makes the movements a bit more smooth. So let's try it now. See how everything is just a bit more smooth? I think that looks pretty good. So we look at the side. We have a little bit of this weird stuff going on. Let's make move around maybe 300. And let's bring this part up. And bring this part down. So we just want to straighten out that jaw. See how this jaw is? It's very wide down there. Let's make it actually, let's bring it down to like 200. Because what we want to do is bring this bottom part up into the skull. So let's go like this. We'll bring this bottom part up into the skull like that. Or I shouldn't call it a skull. It's not a skull yet. It's really a sphere. Okay, that looks better, but it still looks weird. Let's bring this up a little bit and kind of make this straight. Okay, I think that's decent actually. So you kind of want something like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. We have a little room that we can adjust things as we go. But I think that looks good. I'm just gonna push that in a little bit. Look at the front. Perfect. We have it round. It goes down a little bit. And then we have the nice little round piece there. I might even bring this up some. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so we'll hit front. That's good. We're sort of starting to take shape a little bit. So let's deal with this head. It doesn't really look like a head just yet, but it will. So I'm going to take the head. So we're using the move tool again. Let's put it up to like 300. And actually I'm on like 275 or so. And we're just going to bring this up a bit just to make that head a little bit bigger. We need room for the forehead, things like that. Okay, so let's look at the side view. That looks pretty good. Let's bring the back of the head out. Okay. So we're bringing the back of the head out a bit like this. Okay, I just want to make sure that it kind of looks like I'm not looking at the profile, but we are. It's just got some weird shapes there. Okay, so this is pretty good. I know it looks funny, but it's always going to look funny until it starts to look decent. So I think that's pretty good. So we want something like that, almost like a nice bullet going back. By bullet, I just mean, isn't there like a superhero, like the not silver bullet, some character's helmet that kind of goes back like that is what I'm thinking. So if we look at the top view, obviously the head isn't like this. So I'm going to make move tool a bit bigger and just kind of open this up a bit so it's a little more round. There we go. Nice. So let's look at the front view again and let's add some ears. So we'll go to our scene, we'll add, let's do cylinder, and these are going to be ears. So we can go ahead and move it off to the side. So I'll move it off to the left. Larger orange ring to shrink. Maybe something like that for now. And then we'll use this little sphere to shrink it this way. Okay, perfect. Let's use snap. So there's two snaps. There's one with an arrow and one with an angle. We want the angle, 90 degrees. And all that means is that now when you rotate it, it's only going to go in this increment. So if we have the red and we go like this, then it's just going to move 90 degrees. So let's place this. So let's move it over kind of into the head, down. If we look on the left side, that's a pretty good spot for it. Maybe up a little bit, something like that. If you feel your earlobe, it's usually right where your jaw starts to go forward. So we're just going to kind of do that. We can squish it a little bit with this little red piece. We can bring it into the head a bit more. And now we'll turn to the side and let's rotate it with the blue. Let's just rotate it. Well, let's take it off of snap. So we'll tap that and then we'll rotate it until it's a bit more ear-like. Oh, now it just looks crazy. Let's move it into the head a bit more. Let's shrink it a little more too. And let's rotate it so the top comes out a bit and then rotate it on the blue. There we go. Something like that feels decent. Yeah, something like that feels good. Okay, I like that. So let's soften it up a little bit. We'll go to post subdivision up to 2. So we tap these three little dots again, post subdivision to 2, and then we'll bring this down to 24 again. And actually, let's put post subdivision up to 3. Let's get crazy. Okay. So this will be our first time. I'll show you what mirror can do. So if we tap this ear and we hit mirror, then it's going to mirror it on the other side. So if you go to your scene, you see the mirror here and you see the cylinder. So the cylinder is the cylinder. So that's the ear. But let's go ahead and go to the mirror and tap the 3 dots and name that ear. Because eventually when we put them together, it's going to take the name of the mirror. Okay, and let's go to this cylinder and let's just validate it. We can call that ear too, just to be on the good end. So now let's take move. We'll make move small, and you can kind of make your ear look a little bit more earish. I'm going to pull the bottom closer to the jaw, and then maybe I'll just kind of jut this out a little bit so it looks a little more ear-like. I think that's good. And here is a really simple trick. If you're finding that your head is a little bit squashed or squished, or it's too fat or too wide, you can take everything. Don't take the mirror. Like, don't select the mirror. Let's hit gizmo. Oh, it's a little off, unfortunately. Well, let's just forget about the ears for now, and let's just select those two. You can always stretch it, you know? Like, you can always stretch it. You can stretch it this way if you wanted to. So you can always stretch your character out if you feel like the head just isn't working for you. I think I might stretch mine out a little bit. There you go. Perfect. Okay. All right, so what should we do next? Next, I think let's make the eye sockets. So let's tap on the head top. Let's use mask. Make sure that we have symmetry on. You should see 2 yellow dots. So now for the mask, we're just going to make the eye sockets. So we're going to start here and just make like an arch. So something like that for the eye sockets. So now we can just hit invert. Turn it a little bit to the side so it looks good. We'll take gizmo. So now that we've inverted, I should have explained this a little bit better. So the mask just protects certain parts of the mesh. So we inverted it. So the part that we masked is now not masked. So now that part is unprotected. So now we can use the gizmo, and the only thing that it will push is the section that we didn't mask. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So I'm not going to push it too deep. And you notice how this is kind of like a narrow space. So let's fix that. So I'm going to take this red sphere and just kind of move that in a little bit. And then I'm going to take the blue one and I'm just going to push that back. And you see how it kind of flattens out the eye socket? That's what we want. That's perfect. I love it. Okay, so now is a good place to save. Nomad crashes, and it crashes often. So after I make these ears a little bit smaller, you know what? I want to bring them exactly forward. So I'm going to hit align so I can just go forward with them. Actually, that's probably a good spot. The eye shouldn't be too far forward now that I'm thinking about it. I think that's a good spot. I'll hit align again. And you'll notice I do a lot of adjusting. You have to adjust. This is still art, so you have to continue to fix and troubleshoot all the time. So that's why I do that. I leave it in. I just create as naturally as I would if I wasn't being recorded. So let's go to this folder, hit save. Okay, you don't want to rely on autosave, because if your iPad gets unplugged, or if Nomad crashes, or if you run out of battery, you will lose your progress. Trust me. All right, so that's looking good so far. I'm gonna hit align and bring these down a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to mask and let's clear this mask. So you can hit either mask, doesn't matter, select mask or regular mask, and then just clear all. So that's going to be our eye sockets. You know, I might be able to make this a little bit wider now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so next I think we want to add some eyes. So let's add a sphere. Okay, I'm going to move mine up just so you can see it clearly. We're going to shrink it. And then we'll just move it over right into this eye socket. Perfect. So see how it's right deep in that eye socket? That's what we want. That's great. And we can go ahead and hit mirror. And now you can see the one on the other side. So we just want them to look good. Well, we might have to change that around once we go a little bit further. But for now, I think that looks good. Just giving you all the angles, making sure you can see everything. Okay, so next let's deal with the nose. So usually what happens is this part of the head, let's touch the head top. So I'm going to use move. I'll put it down to like maybe 165 or so. So we have forehead here. So this is supposed to be the forehead area. And then the nose, this part actually goes in like this. And this part would come out. Because this would be the nose bridge, and then the nose comes right here. So actually the spacing is actually pretty good. So there's a few ways to add a nose. You can start with a sphere. You can start with whatever you want. We're gonna do a cone, but I just want to let's try a sphere first. I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I can't help it but to test some things out while I'm making a tutorial. I can't help it. But you see, if you want like a little button nose or something like that, then a sphere would work really well. And then you would validate it, and then you could like maybe drag it back or something like that to the bridge of the nose. You know, you would do something like that. Maybe stretch it. Cute nose. So sphere would work. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to use, let's add a cone. Sometimes I'm thinking to myself, like, just stick to the script. I don't really have a script, but you know what I mean. Stick to the tutorial. But I can't help showing examples of other things. So I move the cone up to the front just so you can see it. We're going to shrink it. And let's use this red ring to turn it. Shrink it a little bit more. Oh, I'm still on a line, aren't I? So you might want to use a line. Once you turn it, it might be easier just to bring it straight down using a line. So something like this. And as you can see, I don't know why, sometimes I start whispering. As you can see, I like to, when we're creating this, we're using a lot of the silhouette. So we have the silhouette of the head, we have this nice curve here, which will curve into the nose perfectly. So, it's good stuff. And now that I'm looking at the jaw, I think I want to just adjust it a little bit. I think I want to bring this down and then bring this part up. So it's like, that's kind of what we want. I can move this up a little bit too. Yeah, something like that. Let me see if I want to experiment with it being a little lower. I'll just make the move tool nice and big. Yeah, there we go. That's good. It's a nice looking jaw she's got. Okay, back to the nose. So that looks pretty good. I like it. Let's go ahead and validate it for now. So we might change it around a little bit. We'll see. Let's go back to head top. Let's take smooth. So my smooth radius is about 160 and my intensity is 50 as well. I think that's the default. But let's try to smooth this out. Let's see how much it smooths. Okay, so it smooths pretty easily. So we'll just smooth that out a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy with it just yet. But the face and everything is looking good. So I think the next thing we want to do is we might want to take this part and voxel remesh them together. So we have the jaw and we have the head top. The jaw is very low. Sometimes you have problems if you voxel remesh a part that's very low in a low number and a high number. So let's raise this number up. And then I'll explain what voxel remeshing is. So if you're on jaw, just go up to here, multi-res, subdivide. Let's subdivide it again. So twice, 67.5. So now we'll take jaw and head top. We'll go back over here. You'll see voxel. And we're going to voxel remesh them together, maybe around 160 or so. So just put that to around 160. And what we're going to do is we're not going to join these two together. We're going to voxel remesh them. So we're going to join the topology. So these two pieces are going to become one piece. So if I turn the wireframe on, you can see these are all the squares and stuff that make up each piece. So we're taking these two. You can go ahead and hit remesh. And you can see now that they're joined at like the topmost level. And you can take smooth, and then you can smooth this out, and you'll kind of see how it kind of smooths everything out and brings it together. Make sure you have symmetry on, so when you smooth one side, you're also smoothing the other side. I'll go ahead and turn the wireframe off. So now let's just go ahead and smooth these pieces. You can see it looks a lot better, a lot smoother. So we want to get this nice nose situation going. So I'm going to let's try move really small, and we're just going to move this part of the nose. Let's move it up, and then let's try to smooth it out. So we have that nice kind of like Disney-ish nose kind of thing going on. Looks great. Okay, let's take drag. Drag is very similar to move, except move takes more of a, it'll take more of a complete shape. Drag is more of like a pinch and pull. You know, move is kind of like takes a, I don't even, that's the best way I can explain it. So like with move, it would try to move the whole thing. With drag, it's more of a pinch. I don't know if that was a good way to explain it, but we'll just go ahead and use drag. So we're just pulling the bottom part of the nose down like this. Now let's take smooth and let's just smooth it. Now it's going to be a little bit soft, so don't press too hard with the smooth. You don't need to press too hard. Okay, that might make it a little smaller as well, but I think that looks good. Now obviously we can take this piece and smooth it as well. You can see it's kind of big. It's kind of large, so I'll just smooth that out to kind of bring it down a little bit. You can even take move and you can just kind of push it down a little bit. Doesn't have to be that crazy. Okay, something like that. All right. Nose is a bit big. I think I'll make it a little smaller. Okay, I like that. Okay, so the next thing that I would usually do, let's go ahead and add some more geometry. If you tap layer and then you go really in close to the nose, well, you notice it's doing that weird thing. If you ever see this, that usually means that there is two meshes or two objects occupying the same space. So, and that happens sometimes because if we go to the scene, see we had the mirror for whatever this is, and sometimes if you add a shape, it'll automatically go into that mirror, but that's okay. So we'll just long press the cone, we'll bring it up, and now the cone is one single piece. And we'll just rename it nose. Okay, and now let's take layer. So the layer tool is really cool. I'm wrapping now. So you see I have sub here. Sub, most of these tools have some sort of sub or some sort of opposite. So for layer, it's sub. Regular layer, if I go like this, it's adding material. If I do sub, it's taking material away. But you notice how it's not very clear. The edges aren't very clear. That's because it's a very low resolution. It's only 4,952. It's very low res. So in order to add some more geometry, we'll go back to our scene, multi-res, and then we'll just subdivide it once. Let's try layer now. It looks much better. Okay, so layer, we have it pretty small. These are going to be nostrils. Let's do it like this, and you can bring the intensity up a little bit too. I think the intensity is like the depth. So when you're using layer, anytime you make a stroke and you lift off, then it's going to go and make another one. So if you wanted to, let's say, do this whole thing, you would just have to do it without lifting up, because once you lift up, then you do another one. So let's just make some nostrils. Let's do maybe something like this. And then we'll do it again, and then maybe one more. Perfect, so then we have some nostrils. Okay, so for the mouth, and the mouth is very tricky. There's lots of different ways to do mouths. We're just gonna do some simple lips for this one. So we have a decent amount of space for the lips. I'm gonna take crease, and I want regular crease. Make sure you tap on the head. Yes, we want regular crease. So right now my radius is about 50. And you can see the line. If you don't see your line there, then just go to symmetry and tap show line. That way you can see the line. So this is going to be the center. So what I like to do is kind of go up like this, go out, and then maybe go up again. So something like that. And you'll probably have to make this shape a lot because we're going to be adding clay and remeshing and doing a lot of things to it. So this will just be our base shape so we kind of know where our lips are. She kind of looks like an elf. Okay, so now let's take clay. Let's see, we'll put it around maybe 80 or so. Let's see how, that might be okay. Okay, so we're using clay, we're around 80 or so. We're using symmetry. Let's try to make an upper lip. So I'm not gonna press too hard. I'm just gonna add clay right above that line that we made. And I'm just gonna continue to add it. And I'm gonna go up. Notice that like I'm not making just like a band across. I'm making it a little bit thicker here, but I'm also going up towards the nose. And that's because I don't want to just make a band going straight across, because we kind of want the nose to come down and then we want this shape of the lip. So for example, I'll just do an example down here. So you don't just want to make a band like this going across, because see how weird that looks? It's always better if you make the shape, but then you also go down a little bit to kind of give it that fullness. I mean, that's pretty much how we're going to do the bottom lip too, actually. But I think that looks pretty good, actually. So let's take smooth and really lightly just kind of smooth this out. So we'll smooth that out and see what we have. So I think that looks pretty nice. You can add some more to it, perhaps. Maybe we'll add a little bit more here. A little bit more to this little tip, maybe. Maybe we want the lips to be a little thicker. So we'll do a little something like that. And again, I'm going to take smooth and I'm just going to smooth this out. Okay, so now you can see the lips are a little bit thicker on top. So let's take flatten and let's try to make a nice plane under here. And by plane, I just mean you want the bottom part of the upper lip to be a bit flat. So if we take flatten, and we can just kind of make this flat here. See how we have that nice plane now for the top lip? Looks great. And you can kind of see this crease here. When you want to bring out a crease, you can pinch it. So we're using pinch. My radius is about 70. And then you can just kind of scribble over wherever that line is. Then you can get a nice crease there. And I always think that that looks really cool for like when you're making lips and adding that piece. But again, I still have to do some smoothing. So we're going to have to, so I might do all of this and then pinch it like at the very end, things like that. Let's use clay, let's use sub, and let's make the little philtrum. So the philtrum is that little piece that's like under your nose. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll take smooth, and just very lightly, I'm going to smooth that out. So let's take more clay, and let's do a bottom lip. Okay, maybe make it, let's pinch bigger, maybe to like 90. Oh, I think I'm still on sub. And then we're just going to add where the bottom lip is. We're going to do the same thing like I did before. So I'm kind of doing it lighter on the sides, a little bit heavier in the middle, but then I'm also remembering to go lower than the lip to make sure that the whole lip is there. So something like that. Take smooth and just lightly smooth out this bottom side. Looks great. So I think that looks really good. Okay, so now I'm just doing another assessment on how I'm feeling about everything. So the only thing weird is her head is a little bit flat, like kind of concave there. So I might use move and just kind of pull it out a bit. Maybe even pull this up a little bit more. Okay, that looks a little bit better. The front looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay, beautiful. So the top part of the eye socket, I tend to take flatten. So my flatten radius is about 100. So I'll take flatten, and I like to just flatten this out. So I'll start here and then just kind of flatten that out. Like so, and then take smooth, and then I'll kind of smooth it. You'll notice I smooth things a lot. And also, if you want a bigger nose, I forgot to mention, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you can make the nose as wide as you want. You can make it bigger. There's so much you can do with the nose. You can make it higher. You can put less of a bridge on it. So there's lots of options with the nose too. You can do any kind of nose that you want. Pretty much the same way. You just want to make sure that those nostrils are showing. Even something like this, if I really liked the nose there, I might just drag the whole head. Like I would just make move tool really big, and you can like move the head up to it, and then just take the eyes and move those up too. So don't ever think that you don't have like options when you're working. There's always a way to figure something out. I can't tell if I like that better or worse. I think I like my regular nose, how I had it. So we'll keep this for now. It kind of looks like a Gelfling. Some of you will know. Okay, perfect. So let's do some eyes. So this is going to be the eye, the whites of the eye. So if we go here, we have, what is this? Okay, so this is the eye. Let's name this mirror. Tap on the 3 dots and name it eye whites. So now let's select both of these, clone them, and let's take eye whites and rename it eyelids. And then let's take eyelids and clone it, and let's name eyelids 1, P1. P1 is just what I use for pupils. Okay, so let's hide both of P1. Let's take the spheres for lids and validate it. We can validate this one too. So let's go back to eyelids, and we just want to be on the sphere. So let's just I'll just rename it so you don't get confused. Lid sphere, or the sphere, apparently, Defear. Okay, so we're on lid sphere. We want to make that a little bit bigger than the eye white. So we're just going to use this orange ring and make that bigger. Perfect. And you know what? I'm going to do it. Let's use a magic trick. Let's use X-ray. Boom. And now let's make it bigger. And we should be able to see. Why can't we see? Oh, I guess you can only see it if it's smaller. Well, anyway, so just make it a little bit bigger than the other eyes. We'll turn X-ray off. So now let's take split, and we're using a rectangle. And remember, we're using split and not trim. We're going to use split. So let's make a rectangle. We only have to worry about one part of the eye, one eye. So right in the middle, we want to split. And voila, her eyes are closed. So let's tap on the top. There's going to be two pieces now. Let's tap on the top. And this is my voxel remesh shortcut, but it's the same. We're going to voxel remesh at 150. So this is the same thing as going up here, voxel, and then remeshing at 150 right here. So we'll just hit remesh. We'll take smooth, and we're just going to smooth out that top eye. And we'll do the same thing to the bottom one. Voxel remesh at 150. All this is doing is just kind of making it easier to smooth out these lids. That's why we're voxel remeshing. It kind of recalculates the surface. So if you wanted to make someone sleeping, you know how to do it. Okay, let's take a look at the left view. And now let's go back to X-ray. So you can see we have just the lid. Let's hit pivot. And then let's take the green arrow and move it down here, right to the edge. And then hit pivot again. And then tap the bottom lid, pivot, and let's move it up to the edge. And then we'll hit pivot, and then we'll turn X-ray off. So the reason why we did that is because now we can go to the top one and we can open our lid. So I think I want maybe something like that. And maybe I'll even move it out a little bit more. So we have something like that. Let's take the bottom and then rotate that with the red ring. Let's rotate that down so her eyes are nice and open. Okay, perfect. And this is kind of a taste thing. I'm going to take move and bring it down to like 150. And I want to bring on the top lid, I want to bring this down a little bit more and bring this side up. Maybe even push it back a little bit. But I want this side to be up and this side to be a little bit more down. And you notice that if you have a piece selected, I don't have to be right on the piece. You know, if the piece goes through here, you can still drag it kind of through the mesh, just as a side note. So something like that I think looks a bit better. Maybe we'll open these a little bit wider. Maybe just pull it out a little bit forward. Okay, so now let's go back to our scene. So we have our eyelids. Let's go back, let's turn on our P1, eye P1. We can go ahead and validate the sphere. And then we'll take the blue and we'll bring it up and shrink it. Whoop. Be careful. So we'll bring it up again, shrink it a bit, and then I'm going to make it flat with the blue sphere. We're just going to make it a little bit flat to the eyes. There we go. So now we can kind of move them around. And the biggest thing that's really important when you're making eyes is you want to try not to have them in the middle of the eye white. You want to have them so they're a little bit kind of towards each other, so that they're a little bit more inward, because that's how we normally look straight at something. We're looking at it from two different points and it's coming to a point in the middle. So that's how we see. So our eyes usually aren't in the middle, because then our eyes would be looking like this and the line would be going straight, but the lines are eventually going to come to a point. So that's why they're closer together versus being farther apart. Okay, nice. All right. Okay, good job so far. We're doing very well. Okay, just gonna make some minor adjustments. Bring the nose up a little bit. Might even want to tip the nose down a smidge. I like it. So for the ear, let's just do like a simple kind of ear thing. I'm going to use layer and sub. So just make sure you're on the ear. I'm going to put the intensity down to like 40 perhaps. And kind of just make like maybe a shape like this, and then maybe another one inside. Something like that. That's usually all I do for ears. And then I take smooth and I just kind of smooth it out in there. And I kind of let it do its thing. So on our ear, we have that little piece that sticks out, and I like to put it on the face. So I'll take clay. Make sure you don't have sub. We just want regular clay, and I might just add it like this. So I'll just add it like that, and then maybe take drag and kind of pull it a little bit back until we have something like that. I think that looks good. Okay, I'm just taking a look at her face. Actually, I think her head looks a little bit better tilted. So can I select everything in Gizmo? So select everything in Gizmo, and I'm just going to tilt it a little bit and then leave it, because I think that looks a bit better. You can take the eyes and you can move them up if you still want her looking straight at you. Like so. I want to take drag, and I kind of want to just adjust the, maybe move is a little bit better. You can adjust the eye sockets. Like if you want her less like surprised, because if they're up high, she looks surprised. If they're like this, she's going to look angry. You know, so there's different movements, and that's where you would put the eyebrows. But I want her less surprised, so I'm just going to kind of flatten that a little bit. Like so. And I guess we can go ahead and put, let's put some eyebrows on her. Let's use tube. So we're going to do the eyebrows and the eyelashes. So we'll use path. And we want to use snap. Okay, so let's start here. Touch down the screen, touch on the screen, drag, and then let it go. So now hit the, you can tap on the white line and you can just kind of make an arc, kind of like a eyebrow. So maybe something like this. Looks good for an eyebrow. And then you can hit the little green button and you have your eyebrow. So let's hit radius twice. And you hit radius twice, that means you have control over all of these little nodes. So we can make these, bigger and smaller as we need. You can add nodes as you need. Maybe we'll add a little bit more of a, so something like this I think is decent. I know it looks a little weird, but I think it'll look better in a second. So once you have your shape of your eyebrow, let's hit profile. And we hit profile, you can see that now it's squarish, which is perfect. And now you can adjust it more. So I'm going to adjust it to make it look exactly how I want it to look. I think that looks good. If you need to rotate it, you can hit twist and you can rotate it if you need, but I think mine's in a good spot. I like where mine is. So the only thing, you can hit profile, and this is the box. This is like if we were looking at it through like this way, that's what we're seeing here. So there is a way to make it a bit flatter. See how I'm dragging these up? I got lucky that I picked the right one. Usually I don't. So now it's a lot flatter. If I hit solo again, and you can take gizmo, and you can kind of push it in a little bit. And you can adjust it as you need. And you can always go back to the edit right there. So let's say we want to bring this out a little bit more. You can do that. I think that's beautiful. And let's see if we want to make it a little softer. Let's do post subdivision to 2 and bring the division X down. Get it a little softer. I might bump this up to 3. Okay, I think that looks great. So now we'll just hit mirror, and it mirrors to the other side. And you can change it, you can validate it, or you can just leave it for now if you want to change it later. Whoops, I'm always hitting undo by accident. And I am going to change it because now she just looks so angry. Turn twist off. Okay, and you can turn snap off if you want to push it like further into the head. You just have to turn snap off. Snap will keep it on the surface, so you can just turn that off if you want to adjust that. Maybe I want them to be less sharp. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and validate it. I'm going to live crazy. I'll smooth it out, smooth them out a little bit so they look a little bit more natural. And then if you want to add crease, you can add like creases in them to kind of give them a little personality if you want, things like that. But you get it for the most part. Sometimes I like to be creative and use flatten and kind of flatten some of these parts. Things like that, but you know, you can get creative with it. Okay, do I like them there? Do I want them up a little higher? Yeah, that's good. You can also put them a little further apart. Just remember that once you kind of mess with them, then you have to make sure that they're fixed and they still work nicely. Okay, so next, what do we want to, oh, that's right. Let's use tube again, path again, snap again, and we'll do the eyelashes. So we're going to touch down here, drag, and then we're going to drag this white line. We want to make it kind of in line with the loop of the eye. And this bit at the end, this is just a style thing that I always do, so you don't have to do that. Okay, and that makes the eye lash. Radius, let's make this side bigger, this side smaller. So we do that with two radii. We tap it again, and then we have control of each individual node. And what I'll do here is I'm going to add one here, and then I'll make this one really small. So we get that nice kind of ear tip that I always make with my characters. Make this really small as well. And one other important thing that I do here, when you go in real close, I'm going to add another little node here. Maybe make it a little fatter. And I want this to go into the skin, so it's seamless. But in order to do that, you have to turn off snap. Otherwise, it won't go into the clay. I like to call it Clay.
His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Okay, it looks like it goes in there sufficiently. Oh, looks like I'm already in a mirror. Am I in a mirror? I don't know what's going on. Let's take this mirror out of head top, number 1. And let's take this tube out of that mirror. And let's just mirror it up here. So that's our eyelash, I believe. Yeah. So let's make sure we rename these. Rename this to brow, eyebrow. Okay. And you know, I like to do the whole profile thing as well. So I'll hit profile. I just always think it looks good. I'm gonna use twist, and I'm gonna twist it a little bit. Whoa, whoa. What's happening? What are we doing? That's crazy. That's so weird. I don't know why it won't twist. Whoa. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Kind of works. I wonder if I can do it with my finger. No, it doesn't work with the finger. This is so weird. This has never happened to me before. Come on, just let me move it. Well, anyway, I usually like to do it, but apparently it wants to be difficult. And it's also really, really thick. So I want to adjust it so it's not so... Let's see if it allows me to do it now. No, it still doesn't. It's a bit frustrating, you know, because like you don't want to have to, you know, you never want to have to worry about the program kind of messing up, but sometimes it happens. Okay, I think I like that enough, so we'll call it that. Maybe later on it'll wind up working again. So I'm gonna go ahead and save. All right, so yeah, I'm liking this. I think it looks good. Let's add some quick hair. So this is just going to be some easy hair. Let's add a sphere, and we'll make it a bit bigger and move it up, back. So maybe about there. We can go ahead and validate it, and let's just use move, and let's just kind of make it, make move pretty big. So let's just stretch the hair down. We can kind of make it, we can stretch it out a little bit down here. We'll stretch it out to the back way as well. You want to make sure you have some shape back here. Okay, let's push, let's make the move tool a bit smaller. And we want to push this so it's at least like going behind the ears. Oops. And then maybe we'll do like a pharaoh. Whenever this happens, whenever it starts stretching, it just means you overstretched your clay. So one thing you can do is just voxel remesh it. Let's voxel remesh it around 150. Just hit remesh. And it's okay, it might get a little ugly, but just smooth it out. Since we're still in the molding, sculpting phase, it's fine. Let's drag this down as well. Okay, so now you can just kind of make whatever shapes you want. I'm going to turn this into some sort of Egyptian thing, because why not? I'm going to voxel remesh a little bit higher, maybe 175, so just remesh that. And then I'll take smooth and just kind of smooth it out again. Okay, that looks interesting. So now I'm going to take crease, and we're just going to do crease back, whoop, and down. And maybe go around the ears. And we can join some of these up. And then just make lines. You know, hair is all about shapes and things like that. You can also turn symmetry off if you want to kind of go asymmetrical with it and really get crazy. Obviously, if I was really spending a lot of time, I would do a lot of asymmetrical locks of hair and things like that. But this is just a quick and easy way to kind of do it. Now you can take drag, and you can drag like maybe this part forward a bit. Maybe this part down to kind of give that, like, you know, the hair coming down the side kind of thing. You can also just kind of shape the hair. Maybe it's bigger on one side. And if you wanted to add a neck, just add a cylinder and shrink it. Okay. Move it up a little bit so we can kind of see it. The hair is kind of in the way. Let's move the hair out of the way. We'll just take move and just kind of push it back where the neck would be. So you can just stretch that cylinder out like so. Maybe take the top one and make it a little smaller. Validate it. I'd probably smooth it out a little bit. And then I would take move. Let's turn X-ray so we can kind of see the neck. And then I like to just take move and just kind of make the top a little bit wider and then make the bottom a little bit wider as well. And then I like to just drag this part down. So turn off X-ray. It's a little too long. I'll just kind of stretch it or smush it like that. And I think she looks great. Let's save. So here's the next part of it. And this is probably going to be the end. We're just going to vox remesh the face together. But let's do this first. Let's go to our folder and hit save as, and then hit new. So we have gal face 1 now. So now we have a new sculpt. So you can go to both, you can go to the original one if you wanted to, which is this one, but we're going to continue working in this new one that we just saved. Okay, so now we want to do the head top of the sphere. Let's make sure we label this hair. Okay, the cylinder is the neck, so make sure we label it. And then we have, let's take the eyebrows and validate them. The lashes and validate them. The eye whites, let's just validate all of these. Our lids. We'll leave P1. The ears, let's validate. And all of those, when you validate, they should be on join children. Okay, so the ear is part of the head, that's connected. The nose is part of the head, that's connected. Checking the numbers to make sure nothing is really small. The neck is part of the head, and the head top is the whole head. Oh, and the lids too. So the lids are also part of the head. So we can select all of those elements that should be touching and should be one piece. We're just going to use all those together. And voxel remesh, let's say around 250. Okay, we'll remesh. There we go. So now everything's remeshed at 250. It's all one piece. Whoops. We'll start with the neck. We'll smooth that out. The ear, I'll go nice and soft. You don't have to press too hard. Back here, get those lids nice and soft. Perfect. Down here, just you want to try to keep that keep all the shapes that we made. So you don't need to smooth too hard. And also, of course, the nose, we want to make sure we smooth that out. Notice that I'm trying to smooth it more on the cheek side. And then when I go under here, I'm going to go very, very softly. Okay, so now we have the lips again. So now we can do pinch. We can pinch this part of the lip. Okay, and we can probably pinch the bottom part too a little bit. At least those sides. And let's take crease. And remember, we want to make this a little bit deeper here. Okay, and let's take drag, really small, and let's pull back this little space right here where the lips meet. Let's just pull that back. To make that part go a little bit deeper. I'm going to pull this part of the lip up because it's really just for that little piece going back. Now I'm going to take smooth and very lightly just kind of soften that up a bit. Okay, I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go back to Lit PBR. Okay, so we're back in Lit PBR. And let's select everything. And let's tap right here. So this little cube right here is the color that we have selected. Let's just do, I'll do a neutral color. So maybe something like that. We'll do a little bit more orange. So maybe around there, we'll hit paint all. And then I'm just going to add a couple lights just so we can see our sculpt a little bit better. So I'll tap on the lighting. And you see it says lights here. So this is my environment. This is the eye glare environment. So you can get this from my Patreon or my Gumroad if you want to use this one. If not, you can use some of the other ones. But you'll just notice that things change a little bit depending on which one you use. But I usually like to use mine. Okay, so now let's add one light. Well, first let's turn the environment off, sorry. So we'll turn that environment off, and then we'll add one light. Tap the little pencil and call this key. And let's tap the number 1 and make it 2. Maybe even a little bit more if we want. Okay, beautiful. Let's clone that. Tap the pencil and name it Edge. Okay, so now let's tap the gizmo. It's going to be on the light, and let's bring this light over. And now let's take the green ring and let's just rotate it until we have the very edge, just a very nice edge of light. Perfect, and we can even turn it up a little bit. Maybe we'll tap the color and maybe we'll make it a little more warm. Okay. And the eyes, so for P1, The eyes, let's say we want to make them glossy. You just tap the color and turn the roughness all the way down. Hit paint. So that's how you would make them glossy. But I think that's beautiful. Let's go ahead and turn on our environment again, but turn the exposure all the way down to like 0.2 something. So you want to turn that exposure way down, so you still have a lot of those nice shadows. And since we're here, let's go ahead and add one more light. Let's go to our lights. Let's add one more light. Let's just switch it up. Instead of a sun, let's add a spotlight. Okay, so we'll zoom out. Spotlight comes up, over, we'll rotate it down. Maybe we'll just make it a little bit more on top. Something like that. We'll make it a little less bright. Okay, so let's take a look. I think that looks great. Yeah, I think she looks good. Let's go to view. Actually, let's go to clay. Let's hide these little light icons. You press the little light thing and you can hide them there. And yeah, I think that looks beautiful. Actually, I might like it without the environment. It kind of looks like a little bit more dynamic without the environment. Did we turn post-process on? Let's tap here. Post-process is like, kind of shows you a little bit more what it's going to look like. Global illumination, I usually turn that all the way up. Yeah, I think everything looks good. Okay, so once you have your setup, it's always good to save it. So we'll press the camera, we will hit add view. I like to just do it numerically and put 1. So this just adds your view, so that if you want to look at it a different way and you want to go back, you can press the camera and then just hit your view. So that looks great. And if you want to do a turntable, you would just tap here. I like to do 0, 0, 0. And if you're on an iPad, this is where you record on this screen. So you hit record, 3, 2, 1, and then you hit your turntable, and then you can just put it wherever you want it. And that's your turntable. Let's put her in the middle. But hopefully that was helpful. That's, in essence, how I get to a face. Obviously, there's millions of ways to do it, but you know, if I was working on this just not filming, I'd probably do a lot more adjustments. I'd practice with making the jaw bigger, the jaw smaller, maybe coming out less, bigger nose, bigger lips, smaller nose, smaller lips, bigger eyes, bigger forehead. There's so much that you can do. It just takes seeing things as shapes and seeing things, being able to formulate that in your head, because that will make it a lot easier to sculpt whatever you want to sculpt. Just translate it in your head to shapes. And again, human faces are very difficult. We have a very keen eye as humans. We notice when things are wrong. A lot of drawing helps, a lot of anatomy, a lot of life drawing, all of that helps. I went to art school, I did a ton of that kind of thing, and I was a 2D artist for since the 90s. You know what I mean? So I've done a lot of faces. All of that helps. Drawing really helps. Don't neglect drawing, and don't neglect what you can get from 2D drawing and life drawing and drawing models and things like that. But yeah, once again, shout out to Ashley. This tutorial was brought to you by her. This was one of the things that she wanted to kind of go over, and we did our one-on-one, and we sort of worked on it a little bit. That was my first one-on-one. Really exciting. It was so great to meet you. This is really cool. This is from Patreon, and this was my first one-on-one. So this tutorial was just a crossover because we didn't get to do as much as we wanted to, but I thought it was a great idea to just do it as a tutorial so that she can benefit from it, and then everyone else in the Nomad community can also benefit from it. All right, yeah, maybe she's a Gelfling from The Dark Crystal. I love that movie. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.